Katharine Hepburn names. The 7 lesbian actresses. She hated most that dated in secret with her, and wait till you hear who tops her list, the same woman who allegedly stole her Oscar-worthy role and her favorite cashmere sweater. Katharine Hepburn, aristocratic, headstrong, and devastatingly private, cultivated an image of New England propriety, while harboring explosive secrets about her romantic entanglements with Hollywood's most glamorous women. Can you imagine the courage it took to navigate those treacherous waters when a single whisper could end everything? Today, we dive into the legend's most closely guarded confessions, ones she allegedly shared only in her final years. Subscribe now for more legendary Hollywood confessions dropping every Wednesday. Born into privilege on May 12, 1907, in Hartford, Connecticut, Katharine Hepburn emerged from the womb with that trademark rebellious spirit and razor-sharp intellect. The daughter of a suffragist mother and a progressive doctor father, young Kate grew up in an environment that nurtured her fierce independence and unconventional outlook. Her childhood was marked by athletic prowess, swimming, tennis, golf, and a tomboy attitude that defied the rigid gender expectations of the early 20th century. Little did the sleepy Connecticut town know that its headstrong daughter would one day challenge Hollywood's beauty standards, sexual mores, and gender constraints, all while carefully documenting the women who crossed the dangerous boundary between professional rivalry and intimate betrayal. Hepburn's meteoric rise through the theatrical world began at Bryn Mawr College, where her performances in campus productions revealed a raw, magnetic talent that couldn't be contained by amateur stages. After graduation, she clawed her way through the Broadway circuit, facing brutal rejection after rejection before landing her breakthrough role in The Warrior's Husband in 1932. Critics were electrified by her unconventional beauty and commanding stage presence. RKO Pictures executives, recognizing a once-in-a-generation talent, immediately signed her to a contract that would change American cinema forever. Her Hollywood debut in A Bill of Divorcement opposite John Barrymore established her as an instant if polarizing star. Audiences were divided by her cultured accent, angular features, and that distinctively patrician manner that seemed to both invite and repel. But it was her 1933 performance in Morning Glory that secured her first Academy Award and cemented her reputation as an unstoppable force. Yet success proved fleeting and cruel. A string of commercial failures earned her the devastating industry label of box office poison, a career-killing designation that would have destroyed lesser talents. What would you have done if the entire industry had turned against you? Instead of retreating, Hepburn engineered one of the most spectacular comebacks in entertainment history. She strategically purchased the film rights to The Philadelphia Story, a Broadway hit tailor-made for her unique persona, and leveraged those rights to secure creative control over the film adaptation. The result? A critical and commercial triumph that resurrected her career and re-established her as Hollywood royalty. From there, she forged an unprecedented path of selective, quality-focused roles that earned her a record 4 Academy Awards for Best Actress over a career spanning more than 60 years. But it was her legendary romance with Spencer Tracy that captured the public's imagination. Their 9 films together, from Woman of the Year to Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, showcased a crackling on-screen chemistry that mirrored their off-screen relationship. For 26 years, they maintained what appeared to be Hollywood's most devoted yet unconventional love story. Tracy, a Catholic, never divorced his wife, and Hepburn never publicly claimed him, standing silently at the back of his funeral, respecting his family's position. She famously never watched Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, their final film together, because the memories were too painful. Yet behind this carefully cultivated narrative of patient devotion to a complicated man lurked a far more complex reality. Crew members and close confidants insist that Hepburn maintained numerous intimate relationships with women throughout her career, relationships she guarded fiercely behind a shield of Tracy's convenient presence, her famous preference for trousers, her independent lifestyle, and her resistance to traditional femininity fueled persistent rumors about her sexuality that she neither confirmed nor denied during her lifetime. "I have not lived as a woman. I have lived as a man," she once reportedly declared. "I've just done what I damn well wanted to, and I've made enough money to support myself, and ain't afraid of being alone." Her politics were equally boundary-pushing for her era. A vocal advocate for women's reproductive rights and civil liberties, Hepburn refused to bend to the red-baiting pressures of the McCarthy era. When colleagues were being blacklisted for suspected communist sympathies, she reportedly stood firm against the witch hunts, using her star power as a shield for herself and, when possible, for others. Her privileged background gave her a financial security that allowed for such bold stances, unlike many of her peers who couldn't risk career suicide. Hepburn's fierce independence extended to her living arrangements. While most stars maintained lavish Hollywood mansions, she eventually settled in a modest brownstone in New York City's Turtle Bay neighborhood and a family compound in Connecticut. These private sanctuaries became the settings for intensely private gatherings, where, away from studio spies and gossip columnists, she could allegedly let down her guard with trusted companions, many of whom, it is said, were women with whom she shared more than just career advice. Her notorious disdain for Hollywood's social whirl was legendary. She rarely attended premieres, avoided the party circuit, and treated the press with a mixture of cool detachment and outright hostility. "If you obey all the rules," she famously stated, "you miss all the fun." This philosophy extended to her personal relationships, where sources claim she defied convention at every turn, conducting affairs that would have scandalized America had they become public knowledge. Despite her fierce protection of privacy, rumors swirled throughout her career. The whispers grew particularly intense during the production of Sylvia Scarlett in 1935, where her character spends much of the film disguised as a boy. The gender-bending role, shocking for its time, seemed to some observers too comfortable, too natural. Studio publicists worked overtime to counter the speculation, arranging dates with appropriate male stars and planting stories about romantic entanglements that allegedly never existed. As Hepburn aged, she became increasingly selective about both her roles and her companions. She developed a reputation for being brutally honest, acid-tongued, and unforgiving of slights both professional and personal. Those who crossed her rarely received second chances, and she was said to keep mental notebooks of grievances that spanned decades. Her legendary memory for insults became as much a part of her mystique as her talent and beauty. In her final years, as mortality loomed and the protective shields of career concerns fell away, close associates claim Hepburn became more reflective about the women who had moved through her life, particularly those with whom romance had curdled into resentment or outright hostility. All those battles carved a blacklist into her memory, a roster of women who had shared her bed, her heart, and ultimately, her boundless capacity for both passion and disdain. Late in life, she finally opened her private notebook. Here are the 7 lesbian actresses she couldn't forgive for betraying her trust, breaking her heart, or both. Women who dated her in secret then wounded her pride in ways time never healed. Greta Garbo. Their first meeting at MGM's executive dining room in 1932 crackled with electricity, two titans sizing each other up while studio heads watched nervously, knowing either could walk away from a project on mere whim. Garbo, already legendary for her reclusiveness and ethereal beauty, allegedly found in Hepburn a kindred spirit, another woman who refused to play by Hollywood's suffocating rules. Set designers claim to have discovered the pair in Garbo's dressing room during pre-production, for a film that would ultimately be cancelled. the Swedish star teaching Hepburn yoga positions that required intimate physical contact away from prying eyes. She seduced me with her silence and rejected me the same way, Hepburn allegedly confided to her trusted hairdresser decades later. She could communicate volumes without speaking, then disappear for weeks without explanation. The pattern of approach and retreat devastated the emotionally forthright Hepburn, but the next name on her list would prove that even passionate communication could be equally treacherous. Tallulah Bankhead. At a smoke-filled New Year's Eve party in 1935, Bankhead cornered Hepburn by the champagne fountain, her Alabama drawl slicing through the jazz band's music as she delivered an outrageous compliment about Hepburn's cheekbones that made even the unshockable Kate blush crimson. The notoriously libertine Bankhead made no secret of her bisexuality within industry circles, and crew accounts suggest she pursued Hepburn relentlessly during a theater festival, where both performed in separate productions, sending provocative notes between rehearsals. Tallulah exhausted me emotionally and physically, Hepburn reportedly admitted to a close friend in the 1970s. She demanded an audience for everything, her wit, her body, her endless emotional crises, until I felt like an empty theater after closing night. Their 3-month whirlwind affair ended when Bankhead drunkenly mimicked Hepburn's distinctive vocal patterns at a producer's dinner party, a public mockery that Kate never forgave, though the woman who came next would wound her far more deeply. Bette Davis. The day Hepburn encountered Davis on Warner Brothers' backlot, technicians recall a temperature drop so palpable they checked the air conditioning as two of Hollywood's most formidable talents exchanged pleasantries laced with competitive venom over roles both had coveted. Despite this professional rivalry, costume department logs show suspicious scheduling coincidences where both actresses requested fittings during the same after-hours slots over a 6-month period in 1940, arriving separately but often leaving together in Davis's discreetly curtained limousine. Bette kissed like she acted, with calculated precision and unexpected moments of genuine fire, Hepburn supposedly confessed to a longtime household employee. But she took detailed mental notes on my vulnerabilities that she later used against me. The final betrayal came when Davis publicly criticized Hepburn's performance in a role they had both pursued, professional jealousy poisoning personal intimacy. Yet even this betrayal paled compared to the subtle cruelty of the next woman on her list, Marlene Dietrich. During a USO tour entertaining troops in 1943, Dietrich and Hepburn shared cramped quarters in a military transport plane, where witnesses reported the German-born beauty deliberately changing clothes in full view, her famous legs causing Hepburn to stumble over the patriotic speech she was practicing. The two women allegedly conducted a discreet affair over the next 18 months, with Dietrich teaching Hepburn sophisticated European approaches to both cuisine and romance during clandestine weekends at a Malibu beach house registered under a mutual friend's name. Marlene collected lovers like fine jewelry, Hepburn reportedly told her biographer off the record. She displayed us when it suited her, then locked us away when a more interesting piece caught her eye. The discovery that Dietrich had simultaneously been involved with 2 other actresses and a female studio executive shattered Hepburn's trust. But even this romantic overcrowding couldn't match the calculated manipulation of her next secret paramour, Barbara Stanwyck. On the winter evening Hepburn first encountered Stanwyck at a literary salon in New York, attendees noted how the typically reserved Kate, lit up as the straight-talking Brooklyn native, systematically dismantled a pompous theater critic's arguments, defending Hepburn's recent performance with razor-sharp precision. Their intellectual connection blossomed into physical intimacy during a 2-week sailing trip allegedly arranged by a mutual friend, with the ship's captain later claiming the women spent entire days below deck discussing script analysis while anchored in secluded coves. Barbara understood exactly how to navigate my defenses, Hepburn supposedly confided to her nephew. She could switch from intellectual sparring partner to tender lover with a chameleon's ease that both impressed and ultimately frightened me. When Stanwyck began incorporating Hepburn's private mannerisms into her own roles, a creative theft that felt deeply personal, the relationship imploded in spectacular fashion, though not as publicly as the disaster that would unfold with her next romantic entanglement. Ava Gardner. The first time Hepburn laid eyes on Gardner at a studio commissary lunch in 1949, production assistants recalled how the normally composed Kate knocked over an entire glass of iced tea, transfixed by the younger actress's hypnotic combination of raw beauty and unfiltered authenticity. Despite their 20-year age difference, makeup artists reported finding the two women sharing secret jokes and lingering touches during a charity fashion show, their chemistry so palpable that photographers were instructed by nervous publicists to avoid capturing them in the same frame. Ava was summer lightning in human form, brilliant, beautiful, and gone before you could truly appreciate the power of what you'd witnessed, Hepburn reportedly told a close female companion. I knew she would destroy me, and I walked willingly into the storm anyway. When Gardner casually revealed intimate details of their relationship to mutual friend Frank Sinatra, who then incorporated thinly veiled references into his nightclub banter, Hepburn retreated into a shell of humiliation. But the deepest cut was still to come from her final and most bitter romantic disappointment, Susan Hayward. In the scorching summer of 1955, Hepburn and Hayward found themselves unexpectedly sharing a remote rented cottage when a production delay stranded them at a location shoot in rural Louisiana, the oppressive heat breaking down social barriers as both shed their star personas along with Hollywood pretensions. Property records reveal Hepburn later purchased a discreet mountain cabin where the two reportedly spent numerous weekends, with local shopkeepers recalling the famous pair buying gourmet supplies and expensive wine while pretending unconvincingly to be cousins, despite their complete lack of physical resemblance. Susan wanted everything I had, my acting technique, my industry connections, even my personal style, Hepburn allegedly confided to her longtime housekeeper. What began as flattering admiration revealed itself as calculated career advancement disguised as affection. The ultimate betrayal came when Hayward campaigned for and won a coveted role specifically written for Hepburn, supposedly using intimate knowledge of Kate's insecurities to convince producers she was the better choice. A professional and personal betrayal that Hepburn referenced with cold fury until her final days. As Katharine Hepburn approached the end of her remarkable life in 2003, those closest to her reported moments of startling candor about the women who had moved through her heart over 9 decades. Her legendary privacy, once maintained with almost militant discipline, occasionally yielded to reflective honesty about the emotional complexity behind her carefully constructed public image. The affairs that dared not speak their name during Hollywood's golden age had shaped her as profoundly as any of her iconic roles or her much-publicized relationship with Spencer Tracy. Perhaps the most poignant revelation was not the identity of these 7 women who had earned her enduring enmity, but rather how their betrayals had forged her famously independent spirit. Each disappointment had reinforced her belief that self-reliance was the only true security. Each heartbreak another brick in the protective wall she built around her private self. If you want to sacrifice the admiration of many men for the criticism of one, she once said, go ahead, get married. What went unspoken was how thoroughly this philosophy extended to her romantic entanglements with women as well. In an industry built on illusion, Hepburn's greatest performance may have been the carefully maintained facade that kept her complex emotional and sexual life hidden from public scrutiny. That she managed this feat across 7 decades in the merciless spotlight of fame speaks to both her disciplined resolve and the unwritten rules of an era when such revelations would have ended not just a career, but possibly a life worth living. The legacy of Katharine Hepburn, fiercely independent, unapologetically authentic yet strategically private, continues to resonate in an age still struggling with many of the same prejudices she navigated with such determined grace. As we look back on her string of secret romances and the bitter ends that defined them, perhaps the most profound lesson is how thoroughly she refused to be defined by either society's expectations or her own heartbreaks. Did these revelations about the great Kate Hepburn surprise you? Which Hollywood legends from the Golden Age do you think kept similar secrets? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more unforgettable Hollywood confessions every Wednesday. Tomorrow, we'll be revealing the shocking truth behind Cary Grant's mysterious relationship with Randolph Scott and the studio system that forced them both into marriages of convenience. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single scandalous revelation from Hollywood's most carefully guarded vaults.